Hello and welcome to our Street View episode for August 2018. Today we're going to be doing another deep dive into the Toronto real estate market. In June, we turned the corner in what is now the new normal market moving forward. We're going to look at the key contributing factor to price and affordability. Very excited to be sharing some quality content with you today, so let's get started. We all understand how the simple recipe works. So when we talk about the supply side, we're talking about the number of new listings that have come to market in the month of July. When we compare that orange bar this year with the three preceding years, we can see that the number of new listings was actually down just a smidge, 1.8%. So what does that mean? That means selection of good quality listings is pretty tight. So that means for anybody that's currently shopping for a home, there can still be some competition to buy a home in certain pockets of the city, the most desirable ones. It also means that the other areas where maybe there was an oversupply, such as the 905 district around the GTA, those markets are starting to normalize, and we're going to get to see how the individual results in each of these different areas is starting to reflect that. So the story is, hey, we have a shortage of listings. So if you know of somebody that's thinking about selling, please introduce them to us. We'd be thrilled to help them with the fall market. Just saying. The demand side of the equation is measured by the number of sales that took place in the month of July. And they were up 18.6% when compared with 2017, which sounds like a pretty substantial increase. But please bear in mind that 2017 had that correction in April 2017. It was when the Fair Housing Act was put into place, and rise in interest rates, all of these things caused a correction in the market. So each month that we're moving forward, this current month is always going to sound like it's doing way better than the prior month. But we can see how, compared to 2016 and 2015, the volume of sales were much higher. So just in specifics, for this year, we had approximately 7,000 sales in a given month. In 2016, 2015, it was closer to 10,000 sales in a given month, so down about a third, right? So just put it into context. This is much more normal and sustainable market, which is the continuing theme of what we're seeing in the market today. But how is that all translating to price? Let's go there next. So the result is overall price is up 4.8%, which is fantastic. This is a much more normal range of 4 to 6% is good. Compounded growth year over year, that's much more sustainable. And that is very good to see. Part of that increase is the correction in 2017. So that number dipped down, and we can see how that was trending last year. It ran up in the spring and then really started to taper off in the summer months and was moderate throughout the fall. So now I think the balance of this year, price growth is going to be moderate. It's going to be in that 4 to 6 percentile range. So each month is going to sound really good for sound bites in the media. But you guys understand the deeper story there. We had the run up, and you can see it there in April 2017. Average price was up to $921,000. That was the peak. Currently, it's sitting at $782,000. So, there was the peak. Part of it was seasonality, but the other part of it is, hey, that was the run up in the market. And, another key factor is what were interest rates at that time, because anyhow, we'll get into that in a second. I'm very excited to get into this little deep piece of content for you, because interest rates are a fundamental accelerator on what house prices do. So we're going to get into that. But we like the moderate growth that we're going to see for the balance of the year is the bottom line. So to guide you through the details, we can see how this matrix has the different home types that are then broken down into number of sales and then price. And the top half is what happened in the month of July. The bottom half is what's happening year over year as a comparative. So depending on what type of property you either own or you're interested in, you'll zero in on the house type, and then you'll say, I'm in the 416 or the 905, and then you'll look at what the average price is, and then you look below at, what does that represent in terms of a change year over year. So that's how you kind of navigate this piece of information. So let me help you with some specifics. That now, in the month of July, we saw that detached homes in the 416 at $1,380,000. For the first time in quite a long time, we've seen positive growth year over year of 3.6%. So it appears that detached homes, in terms of the overall correction they've experienced in the last 14 months, the bottom is done. It's actually trending the other way. And in certain areas of the city, some people would argue it never changed. Peak price in April 2017 was $1,550,000 approximately. So, $1,550,000 down to $1,380,000 is the delta. So, I guess detached homes are, certainly they had a run up in the market, and that's the correction it represents. It was a very short-lived run up. It was a very narrow window of time. It was only a few months, and then boom, it came right back down. So interesting to see that. The condo pricing that we're seeing in the 416, I'd like to talk about as well. $580,000. Peak price in April 2017 was $578,000. So $2,000 difference. Very, very, very small difference between the absolute peak and where we're at now. Yes, the condo pricing did see a subtle correction in the first couple months, but then since then it's been steady Eddie, and more recently it's been growing like crazy. And in this month it's showing a 9% growth year over year, because a year ago you could buy a condo for 9% less than what you can buy it for now. Once again, a good illustration of how condo pricing is so super strong and is continuing to close that gap between the condo type of house and a semi or a detached. So once again, condo owners are in a better position to be making the jump today than they were a year ago. And certainly the jump between semi-detached and detached is also a very close delta, meaning how much extra money do I need to get into that house type. So that illustrates some of the opportunities in the marketplace, and that's a real key understanding as you're mapping out next steps for yourself in housing, or exactly that. And we would be thrilled to help you figure that out. Of course, we love helping people navigate that process and figure out the right moves and when to make them. But this is a great market, a lot of stability. And I would then also give kudos to the 905. We can see how detached housing year over year was only down by 0.2%. So I believe that detached housing in the 905 area code has bottomed out. And you guys are going to start to see a resurgence in price, partly because the number of listings has also shrunk a little bit. The days on market is starting to get a little bit shorter, and the demand is coming back. There's more optimism. The economy is doing good, all of those things. So I think that you guys are on track. You've seen the bottom of your market, and you're going to see some steady, consistent growth, especially with the 416 getting a lot of price growth. It's going to force people to shop in your market again, like it has in the past. And we're going to get into those details right next. One of the best gauges to the health of our economy and how it influences housing is prime interest rates and borrowing costs. And this particular chart, coming from ratehub.ca, great resource for people planning mortgage financing and affordability, just give them a good plug, is in 1981 we saw a peak in the market of interest rates went up to 21.75%. It's almost 22%. Can you imagine paying 22% interest rates? It's hard to fathom, but some of us have experienced it and other people have heard the legend. It actually happened. From there, it did correct down into 1991's peak, and that was the speculation in the real estate market when we saw a huge run up in price and then a massive correction. So 1991 is a very interesting point in time because that's when the Bank of Canada implemented their monetary policy. And it was twofold. One was inflation control, and the other one was a flexible exchange rate controlling our currency on the global stage. That's kind of an aside. Their primary focus was controlling inflation, and the target rate is 2%. So when inflation is trending above 2%, we're going to see interest rates go up and to curb our spending. If we see interest rates trend below 2%, we're probably going to see interest rates decrease because they want to stimulate the economy. Everybody understands that. But this is a great historical reference because it brings us to today. And look at that low where we're at compared to all the way back almost 100 years. Record low interest rates. Are they going to last forever? I don't think so. So that's a very interesting point to be mindful of. But let's see how this plays out. Every 6 weeks, the Bank of Canada gets together and sets out the overnight interest rate. And this chart, going back to 2012, highlights some fundamental changes in our economy and to the market. In 2001, we had the tech bubble crash, and we saw interest rates were dramatically cut. Then we saw incremental growth right up into 2007, 2008, when we had the financial crisis. Boom, to record lows. And now we've had a lot of stability since that time. And we've talked about this before. That stability in interest rates created a very low-cost borrowing environment, which then translated into a heck of a lot of house appreciation, because people could still borrow money cheaply. They could afford to buy more house, and they could afford to drive prices up. Now, in the more recent term, since the Fair Housing Act in 2017, there have been 4 increases in the overnight rate of a quarter point, which they call 25 basis points, right? So how does that impact affordability? Great question. Going back to 2008, we can see fixed rate mortgage values were upwards of approximately 5%, and now they trended to an all-time low of 2.25, and these are discounted rates. This is not the posted rate. This is what you can get if you negotiate with your bank on mortgage rates. In 2017, you could get some fixed rates at 2.25. And where are they at now? They're closer to 3% on a discounted basis. And the posted rates are 3.2, 3.3, right? So that's the connection there. But the point being that interest rates there have increased 0.75%. And so how does that translate to affordability? The answer is this, that for every 25 basis points that increase, we'll see an approximate reduction in someone's buying budget of 2%. So let's say that you have an overall home buying budget of $750,000. That if you had a quarter point rise in interest rates, your budget has to be reduced by 2% or $15,000. So it means you can no longer shop for a $750,000 home. It has to be $735,000. You're with me so far. So now if we see interest rates go up 3 times or 4 times, then that's 4 quarter points or 1%. Interest rates have gone up. Then we're going to see a corresponding reduction in their buying budget of approximately $60,000. So no longer is it a $750,000 home buying budget, it's $690,000. So you can see how that would impact the marketplace and people's ability to pay more for a house. It also influences their ability to shop in a given neighborhood, because if that neighborhood's gotten too expensive, they have to go somewhere else to find value. And how does that look? To find the answer to that question, we're going to refer to our brand new RE/MAX Hallmark report that's now being produced on a quarterly basis. Our brokerage is investing a lot of effort to provide insights, market insights, to all of the areas that they service. And it's a pretty broad spectrum, as you can see. Our brokerage continues to grow. It's such a wonderful success. And so how does that translate to you? It's great information and insights that we get to share. Okay, so here is the most powerful slide I was able to find for you guys this month. And what the heck is it saying? It says, how much does my family need to earn to afford a detached home in these following neighborhoods? Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, Montreal. And then if I were concerned about the commute times, I can see, okay, right over on that far side, if I want to have a 10-minute commute through to a 60-minute commute, there's the household income you have to have, right? So in Vancouver, you want to have a 10-minute commute, you better have a family income of approximately $330,000. How does that translate to Toronto? You only need $248,000 if you live in Toronto and you want a 10-minute commute. And you say, well, listen, my household income is not $250, it's $150. Great. Okay. Well, let's see what the options are. Well, for $150,000, we could have a 50-minute commute in Vancouver. Wow, we could have less than a 10-minute commute in Calgary. We only need $115,000 there. In Toronto, that's somewhere around a 30-minute commute, 30 to 35 minutes by the looks of it. And in Montreal, boy, oh boy, we could buy several homes. we only need a household income of about $100,000 to live within 10 minutes of where we want to commute. And then the bar on the far right is a great one. It talks about how many days that translates to a year in commute. And I think this is a really insightful one. So here's how it works. If you have a 10-minute commute every day, twice a day, if you multiply that out, that equates to 7 days a year, you in the car doing the commute. It's kind of insightful. And the other end of the spectrum is if you spend 60 minutes in your commute 2 times a day throughout the entire year, that translates to 43 days in a given year. That's like, my God, it's almost a month and a half you sitting in your car. Wow, that's impactful. So, location is always a huge factor for real estate, and I think this one is a great slide. And if you'd like to get a copy of it, just personal message me or email me. It's a great illustration of how to budget where to live, and the idea that you just need to get in your car and drive until you can afford the real estate. So it's a really great slide. I quite like it, of course. This one's a great slide as well. It breaks down Canada from coast to coast, and what it represents is the number of sales that have happened this year versus last year. And you can see how Toronto at the bottom is saying that sales are down on a cumulative basis of approximately 38%. Which is completely accurate. And then on the inverse of that, we can see Ottawa is at the top of the list. So what's going on in Ottawa? Ottawa is actually up close to 10-15%. So, in the broad spectrum in between, and you can see Greater Vancouver is, just 1/3 up, and of course their market is down as well. But where's the activity? Where are people buying? Ottawa, Sherbrooke, Montreal, Saguenay, and Trois-Rivières. All of those markets are up, interestingly enough. And it's like all of the Anglo markets are more so down. So it's a very interesting thing going on in Canada right now. With Ottawa at the top of the list, hey, what's going on there? Well, by our Hallmark report, they're saying local high-tech companies are growing while major retailers are all announcing expansion plans. I think we all heard in the news how Amazon is building a distribution center there. So Ottawa is rocking right now, and I think the numbers relate that. There's also an expected launch of a light rail transit system in Ottawa that is emphasizing growth in the condo market. And I think we can see, the growth, modest growth across these different home types, and the average days on market going down, I think illustrates how more and more Canadians are opting into Ottawa. And I was there in the month of June. I was networking with my colleagues there and providing some training for them. And I think the city has a wonderful vibe. It doesn't have the congestion. It has great affordability, great lifestyle. And I think if I were new to Canada, I would be putting Ottawa on my short list. I think the only concern I would have is that it has a real winter, very much like Montreal or Quebec City, some of these other areas. But what a gorgeous capital we have. We are really spoiled in Canada, that's for sure. But I really think that there's some wonderful opportunities. Lifestyle-wise, we've helped several clients make the move up there. And investment opportunities, there's definitely opportunities there. And we have a network of trusted professionals there. So if you're wanting to contemplate Ottawa, please let us know. We'll get you connected with the right professional to help guide you through that process and find a great option. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. I hope that you found this deep dive content is the kind of stuff that you want to be hearing from us. We'd love to have your feedback. Be sure to share and or like the content if you're getting this through social media. And know that Madeline and I are never too busy for your referrals, and we are super excited with helping you navigate your own housing journey, wherever that might lead. And until next time, I'm Matt Emerson of RE/MAX Hallmark. Take care. Bye-bye.